Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Friday, May 27th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amitha Sharma, in for Maya Trabulsi. COVID-19 cases are increasing, and so is San Diego County's pandemic risk level. And it comes as we have both the holiday weekend and the busy summer season approaching. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman has more on our move from the CDC's low-risk category to medium.
Coronavirus cases are climbing again as another wave of infections appears to be here. Just in the last 2 weeks, cases have increased by 40%.
I let my guard down, and as a consequence, my whole family's now sick. So
Dan Imbat was getting a COVID test at Chula Vista City Hall on Friday after he says he contracted the virus while in Florida.
Been religiously wearing a mask for the last 2.5 years, and go to my first conference with the mask down and catch it.
It's not his first time catching COVID, and he's not surprised by the recent increase in cases.
I think everyone's guard's coming down, and I think we've had 2.5 years of not seeing each other.
He wasn't the only one getting tested after attending a large event.
My phone texted me and it told me that I was exposed.
Giovanna Huerta felt some symptoms after going to a music festival in Las Vegas. She's gotten COVID before and isn't too worried about traveling right now.
I'm not scared to go out just because I know it's something you can't really get away from. Like, eventually I feel like everyone's gonna get COVID at least once.
In the medium risk category, the CDC says if you have symptoms, go and get tested. They also recommend that everyone stay up to date on their COVID-19 vaccinations. And if you're at a higher risk, they recommend going and talking to your doctor about taking additional precautions like masking up. San Diego was previously in the CDC's low-risk category. They now join other Southern California counties, including Los Angeles, Orange, and Imperial, in the medium tier. No California county is in the high-risk category yet. Determinations are based on hospital admissions and new cases, both of which have been ticking up here.
Hopeful that the community can come together and kind of, react accordingly.
Chula Vista firefighters have been staffing the City Hall COVID testing site. They've seen recent increases in requests and say the free option isn't going anywhere.
No plans to close. We're definitely looking to serve the community the best we can, and hence the reason why we've stayed open to try to keep some consistency in place.
Memorial Day weekend is kicking off an expected busy start to San Diego's summer tourist season, but health officials say the pandemic is not over and people should try and avoid large crowds or take their parties outdoors if possible. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Texas authorities admitted for the first time today that a team of police officers stood outside classrooms at Robb Elementary School for almost 50 minutes while the shooter threatened children, many of whom anxiously called 911. That admission comes 4 days after 19 kids and 2 teachers were killed in the massacre. Survivors are now coming forward, sharing their harrowing experiences inside the school. Chris Wynn explains.
And this afternoon, we learned the gunman started shooting at the classroom windows as he approached the school. This as more questions emerge over why it took so long for law enforcement to engage. Outside of Robb Elementary School, the sounds of children's footsteps and laughter replaced by silence. And these crosses representing the 19 students and 2 teachers shot and killed Tuesday. As the community grapples with grief, survivors of Tuesday's attack are sharing their harrowing stories.
The shooter shot through the window and hurting my friend and my teacher.
We were running out of the doors because like 2 police cars were covering our doors if the shooter was gonna come in, and then we just ran the room. So I was praying, thinking, why is this happening?
This is 11-year-old Maya Cerrillo, who shared her brave story off camera. She says the gunman came into her classroom, said goodnight, and then started shooting. When he walked away, she smeared blood on herself and played dead to survive. Many questions remain about why authorities didn't immediately go into the school when the gunman barricaded himself inside for nearly an hour.
Of course, it was not the right decision. It was a wrong decision, period. There's no excuse for that. But again, I wasn't there, but I'm just telling you, from what we know, we believe there should have been an entry at that as soon as you can.
Police also said the gunman used at least 100 rounds of ammunition during the attack. The Texas Rangers are currently in charge of the investigation with support from at least 200 agents from the FBI. Reporting here in Uvalde, Texas, I'm Chris Wynn. Back to you.
And as many debate the tactics used by law enforcement in Uvalde, officials here are focusing again on how to keep kids safe. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado spoke with a tactics expert to find out what could have been done differently and what should be done in the future.
The gunman is visible in this video in front of Robb Elementary School in Texas shortly before he entered the building and murdered 19 children and 2 teachers. No one stopped him. And here you see distraught parents begging police to go in and help their children. Now, law enforcement officials admit the supervisor made the wrong decision for officers to wait at least an hour to enter. He assumed the gunman posed no threat because it transitioned into a barricade situation. This has many teachers, parents, and students worried the same thing could happen here.
What happened in Texas, it's hard to know for sure what's going to happen. It's just unknowing, We don't know if we're actually truly safe at school anymore.
San Diego Sheriff's Department training captain Herbert Taft says while he cannot comment on the tactics of other departments, waiting is not part of their training.
I can guarantee that we all understand what the cost is, but this is what we signed up for. This is our job, and you can absolutely count on us.
Lieutenant Chris Katra, who is charged with all department training, says law enforcement agencies in the county all use the same tactics.
What our department teaches is an immediate response, immediate action, rapid deployment. And what that means is that we don't wait. We don't teach our people to wait around and wait for SWAT teams. That's not how our deputies are trained. That's not how we train as a regional.
Katra also says they're prepared for locked door scenarios with knowledge of lock boxes and equipment in their cars.
So a locked door isn't going to stop us. We'll kick it down. We'll mow it down. Most of us are parents ourselves, and we react just like those teachers react. You heard them crying. These are our children. We think of it as the same way. I was a school resource officer for many years. I would die for those kids, and I know a lot of the deputies would put their lives on the line for those kids.
Dr. Glenn Haas, a law enforcement veteran who consults and teaches tactics to law enforcement agencies across the country, says the Columbine school shooting changed police tactics forever.
Officers have to go in and have to stop that suspect by whatever means they can. And if that means a single officer going in at tremendous risk to their own safety, then that's what they have to do. And while that was something that wouldn't have been considered pre-Columbine, that's something that's become the norm nowadays. And that's why probably people have seen this particular incident and have so many questions of why. Why was there a time lag? What was going on? What were the decisions? Why were the decisions being made in this way? And until this investigation is over, we're just not going to know.
Haas says that information is critical to know because it will save lives. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
Protesters are making their voices heard outside the National Rifle Association convention in Houston. Former President Donald Trump and other leading Republicans are speaking during the 3-day gun advocacy event. Texas Governor Greg Abbott was scheduled to attend, but instead addressed the crowd virtually. The NRA said in a statement that those attending the gun show would reflect on the Uvalde school shooting. It's been an eventful week for the Republican candidate for San Diego Sheriff, John Hammerling. KPBS reporter Claire Tregeser says he lost a big endorsement and stepped down from his job in the city attorney's office.
That happened after a video surfaced showing Hammerling making comments about where transgendered women should use the bathroom. It was recorded by the news outlet Times of San Diego at an April candidates forum in Ramona.
The Board of Supervisors passed an ordinance the other day in the county that redefined what a woman is, where it included men.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I know. He went on to tell the audience that the supervisors have an agenda.
They're going to be asking them to enforce that out here. Allow those men to go to the women's bathrooms.
This week, Hammerling retired from the city attorney's office. In a statement, he said he left to focus on his campaign and, quote, "I apologize to those who took my comments to imply criticism of anyone based on their sex or gender identity." Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
Getting in and out of San Diego International Airport is about to get more difficult. KPBS reporter John Carroll shows us the construction that will hold up parking shortly after the big holiday weekend.
No pain, no gain. The phrase associated with working out also applies to what is underway at San Diego International Airport. The gain, a sparkling new Terminal 1. The pain, trying to park here over the next several years.
It is going to be a bit of a nightmare.
Airport spokesperson Sabrina Lopiccolo is simply stating the obvious. In fact, the Terminal 1 parking lot has already shrunk by about 300 spaces. That's the part behind the smiley face fence coverings, and soon it will go away altogether.
Come June 5th, we are going to have to close the Terminal 1 parking lot, and as of June 15th, the entire parking lot will be empty and turned over as a construction site. And this site specifically will be the new Terminal 1 parking structure.
Any vehicles here after June 15th will be towed, and after that, the Terminal 2 parking plaza with its 3,000 or so spaces will be it. This sky bridge will be torn down to be replaced by this crosswalk being put together now. The 55-plus-year-old Terminal 1 will be around for a while, but as you can see, crews are already working in the area, and next they'll tear down the current Airport Administration Building, the old PSA headquarters for those of you who've been around here a while. A new admin building is being built. Part of the new terminal will go where the current admin building is.
Once that new terminal is open, the first 19 gates will move all of the airlines over. We'll get them settled, and then the demolition of the current Terminal 1 will begin.
While the construction goes on outside, the crowds grow inside as the holiday weekend is upon us, and Sabrina Lopiccolo has some travel tips. First, plan ahead, as in plan if you want to park here.
We strongly recommend getting reservations, which can be done on our website at san.org.
MTS can get you here by bus or trolley. There's a free shuttle service from the Old Town Station. But no matter how you plan to get here, remember, construction.
It's going to take extra time to not only get to the airport, but get through security and get to the gate. So whether you're flying out of Terminal 1 or Terminal 2, just make sure that you're allowing yourself enough time, preferably about 2 hours before your flight.
And it might help to think that even with all this pain, there is gain at the end. A beautiful new state-of-the-art terminal, another step in San Diego's journey to being a truly world-class city. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And if you're hitting the road for the holiday weekend, get ready to pay up. Prices in the county at $6.02 on average for regular unleaded. That's 29 cents more than a month ago. And analysts say don't expect prices to come down, especially through summer. San Diego officials are bracing for crowds at our beaches. Mayor Todd Gloria was with first responders this morning, reminding everyone to be safe.
Make good decisions this weekend, everybody, all right? Show up early, get that parking space, be kind to one another, make sure that we show off the best of our city. We're going to have a lot of visitors in town. They're going to come, they're going to leave a lot of money, and they're going to go back to where they came from.
Officials also unveiled a new fireboat that can help with water rescues. San Diego lifeguards say they will be out in force this weekend along with San Diego police. The Chula Vista Police Department has touted its new real-time operations center as the cutting edge of policing. But a contract with Motorola Solutions to provide software for the center continues to alarm privacy advocates. The city's contract with Motorola Solutions was a hot topic during a February meeting of the Chula Vista City Council. The contract calls for Motorola to provide software for the police department's new real-time operations center, which is the hub for data coming from drones and other high-tech surveillance tools. The spotlight was on the deal following a KPBS story on how the contract's terms essentially handed over city residents' private data to Motorola. In late 2020, Councilwoman Jill Galvez voted to approve the contract without comment. But 1 year later, she had questions.
It would be wonderful to hear just a high-level response to some of the allegations that we've been reading about in KPBS and hearing about in terms of Chula Vista's contract with Motorola and selling out data privacy.
Galvez sought answers from then Chula Vista Police Captain Don Redman. He said at least one of the Motorola contract terms was a mistake.
It was part of an older template contract that they gave us.
Later, KPBS learned that after the story, the city had quietly amended the contract to remove a provision that would allow Motorola to license or sell customer data that had been stripped of names and other identifying factors. Albert Fox-Kahn is the executive director of the New York City-based Surveillance Technology Security Project. He was harshly critical of the original contract, calling it Orwellian. He says it's no better now.
If you had made this change in a typical contract, I might have thought it was actually a big improvement. But this contract is so much worse than what we typically see.
Fox-Kahn points out that the contract still allows the company to analyze, publish, develop, and improve commercial products and offer subscription services to customer data gathered by Chula Vista police surveillance tools.
Even worse, there's nothing here that blocks Motorola from selling this data to customers who then resell it to other people and resell it to other people. And once you allow the data to be used in that way, it really is just available to the highest bidder.
Those data include live social media feeds, information picked up by the agency's automated license plate readers, and video captured by its drones sent out to 911 calls. Motorola did not return KPBS emails or calls, but in a February letter to Chula Vista, the company assured the city it does not, quote, share or resell customer data. But Motorola can still take customer data and customize it, privacy experts say. Once that happens, it's called solution data, and the contract gives Motorola, its vendors, and licensors exclusive ownership of solution data. The contract does not bar Motorola from selling solution data.
The change is window dressing. It's performative art. It's meant to give, comfort to people that aren't paying attention.
Privacy advocate Brian Hofer says the Chula Vista City Council's approval of the original Motorola contract was bad enough.
If this had been the first instance, I give them a pass and just say it's negligence. When it happens a second time and it's this obvious that it's a bad contract, it seems like there's some intent to allow this to happen.
Chula Vista Councilman Steve Padilla concedes he and his colleagues should never have approved the original Motorola contract, but he says he's now comfortable that the amendment made earlier this year protects Chula Vistans' privacy.
Nobody's being spied on, and nobody's data is being collected, and nobody's data is being shared, and nobody's data is being sold.
Nevertheless, Chula Vista City Attorney Glenn Guggen says the contract is still under review. He said, quote, significant city contracts are always reviewed by my legal group. Until recently, however, these types of provisions had not been an area of focus. They should have been, and now very much are. Chula Vista Police are slated to give members of the city's new Technology and Privacy Advisory Task Force a tour of its surveillance tools next week. Cruise nights are coming to an end in National City, at least for now. KPBS reporter Jacob Eyre explains the change of plans.
We have decided to cancel all of the future cruises on Highland Avenue.
sadly.
May 6 marked the first cruise night in the city in nearly 30 years after a ban was lifted for a temporary 6-month trial period. Now, organizers like Jovita Arellano are saying that they're being asked to pay more than what was originally planned.
It was made clear to us during the May 23rd ad hoc meeting that the city wasn't going to work with us by removing any of the fees for the police or public works or Caltrans. These fees would cost us anywhere from $15,000 to $18,000 per cruise.
Noni Samano is a United Lowrider Coalition member who says she feels like they were set up for failure.
It's very disappointing. I mean, what we're doing is cruising. It's not illegal or immoral. We're just out there in our cars, and it's only for 3 hours. So it's not like it's an all-day event and then it runs into the night. No, it's just 3 hours, and we just cruise, and that's it.
The National City Police Department said in an assessment and recommendations plan that the May 6th event lasted more than 3 hours and far more cars came to the cruise than expected. National City Mayor Alejandra Sotelo Solis said in a written statement to KPBS that public safety must be a priority. She wrote, "This is not a city of National City versus cruising issue. This issue is about an event and temporary use permit that was reevaluated as needing to address the safety of community, transportation impacts, and congestion." Meanwhile, National City Council member Jose Rodriguez pushed back on the notion that cruising is still banned.
What happened less than a month ago was a huge success. Neighbors came out and said they enjoyed it. Businesses enjoyed it. Everybody that was a part of the cruise enjoyed it. There were no major issues in our city, only cause for celebration. And so we need to do more of that.
United Lowrider Coalition members say they'll meet with city leaders on June 21st to discuss future plans for the cruises. Whoa. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
We'll watch a trough dip its way into Southern California, and that means cooler and cloudier for Southern California for this weekend. And also it means we're going to see some very strong winds on the mountain ridge tops and into the desert areas, and then a warming pattern to look forward to as we head into next week. But we do have some wind advisories at play to the east of Ridgecrest again. This is going to last through Monday morning, so it's all weekend long and right through the holiday that we'll be dealing with some very gusty winds across the area into those higher elevations and across the desert areas. You'll also still be dealing with some low cloud coverage in those evening and morning hours, and so temperatures will still fall to the 60s in a place like San Diego for tonight. Chula Vista 60 as well, El Cajon 58. Interior areas, less cloud coverage, you fall to temperatures into those lower 50s. Oceanside about 58 degrees. All right, here's that front that progresses a little bit more to the south and east. Out ahead of it, that's where you get those very strong gusty winds, and that's where it will be quite warm. And on the backside and even right along the coastal areas, it's going to be much cooler actually for this holiday weekend. You can see the clouds kind of hanging around even through the lunch hour for your Saturday, and then slowly working their way into the more interior areas, and then we'll really just be dealing with that even into Saturday night. So that's what we have for the day. That will keep things cooler in places like Oceanside, Escondido, San Diego, Chula Vista on the 60s, Ramona, El Cajon in the 70s, even Borrego Springs, who've been in the triple digits, you'll cool down to the 90s, into the mountain 60s. Showery and cool, that's the trough that I was talking about across areas of the Great Basin with those cooler temperatures and some shower activity. We'll see the clouds stick around the coast. Back to the mid-70s by the time we get into mid next week. Inland back to the 80s by next Tuesday and Wednesday, and for the mountains back to the 70s by next Wednesday as well. So it's going to take some time, and it will be back to the triple digits by next Wednesday for the desert areas. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Michelle Rotella.
Record high gas prices aren't slowing the demand for travel this holiday weekend. SDSU's Mira Kopik tells us about the millions of people on the move over the coming days in the Friday Business Report.
There's going to be a lot of visitors to San Diego, but in Southern California, over 3.1 million Southern Californians are going to be leaving the area and traveling somewhere. Expect to be the 4th largest travel season in history, 2.6 million of these. So the vast majority are going to be driving. We're doing this in context of extraordinarily high gas prices. So we saw that this week, the average gas price in San Diego was $6.03. The good news is that inflation kind of moderated last month a little bit, which is great. And the Congressional Budget Office the other day reported that they expect inflation to drop to under 6% at the end of the year, which means that summer travelers who are going to travel in the middle or the latter part of the summer, who have their vacations planned then, might see a moderating influence on the costs that they're going to be paying for all sorts of goods and services. Not sure about gas prices, but certainly overall, that's good news for consumers if inflation continues to moderate later in the summer.
Just in time for summer, the long-awaited Top Gun Maverick finally arrives in theaters today, 36 years after the original film. You might remember Tom Cruise and the rest of the cast recently walked the red carpet aboard the USS Midway in honor of the movie's ties to the Navy in San Diego. Fans of the original Top Gun movie will recognize a new pie shop in Oceanside. The 500-foot cottage built in 1887, known as Top Gun House, has been a tourist attraction since the 80s. But now it has been restored and opened as High Pie, right next to Mission Pacific Hotel. There's even a motorcycle, similar to the one Cruise's character rode in the movie, out front for photo ops.
You'll have, a cute couple that'll come over there, and the gal will jump on the back of the bike and wrap around her boyfriend. You'll have grandmas that'll get on there and experience that. And they saw the movie 30 years ago, and they're reliving that moment. So it's neat.
The cottage was moved one city block during the restoration. It cost about $1 million and was a collaboration between the Oceanside Historical Society and local designers. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us, and good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.